Warning, major spoilers ahead, just so you guys know. But this is a missing persons case that ties into a murder of the chief detective that leads to the collapse of the head of law in Britain, becoming probably the best case in all of the great Ace Attorney and one of the best cases of Ace Attorney history. This case is different than what most cases are like, because you start off in the middle of the trial that you started in episode 4, and that being the murder of Tobias Gregson, the chief detective. That might seem a little like cheap or lazy, since it's the same case, but no, because there's not an entire case inside this case. Some caseception, one might say. This is the perfect case to end the Chronicles because it ties into almost every other case in this series. I'll run down the case. You are defending the supposed Reaper, or Lord Beric Van Dykes, who is basically the antagonist of the game so far, and the prosecutor is none other than the best friend who you just found out was alive a few cases ago, Kazuma. As I said, this case ties into all the other cases, and including the other game, including the murder of Dr. John Wilson, who this will become important later. That case led to Ryusake's journey to London, where he saw the fact of the so-called Reaper in epic faction when the car burnt down, killing the client that he just got found not guilty in the end of the Great Ace Attorney adventure. But the Reaper is on trial for killing Gregson Tobias, even though they worked together. And after a big twist where you get to play as Mr. Sholmes, and you discover that's actually the judge that from Japan that killed the chief inspector. And I did not see that coming. So with that solved, you think the case might be over, but it's not, because now Kazuma accuses Lord Van Dykes as being the Reaper and killing those 14 people that were found not guilty under him. Kazuma is blinded by the fact that his dad, Jensen, was put to death by Van Dykes for being the professor. But to figure out who the Reaper is, we must first figure out who the professor is. And in a giant plot twist that I did not see coming, it's Beric's brother, Clint, who you don't know much about, so it's kind of, it doesn't really hint to that for the whole game, which is kind of lame, but we found out that Kazuma's father did kill Clint, but in a duel, so they would die with honor. So he was not the professor, and he did kill Clint, but not in the way that we have been led to believe. But Jensen knows the truth, but he's convicted, as we know, but then goes on a prison break. We know this prison break happens due to the previous case involving Inosh Jabor, and so while he's robbing the grave, Jensen ends up getting shot because he gets spotted, and the person that shoots him, none other than the judge from Japan, who has now killed 2 people. That is crazy, because, he's from, one case and, or 2 cases, I guess, one in each game, but now things start getting interesting, as Lord Strongheart knew that Clint was the professor and started making him kill certain high-class members, the method being with the hunting dog, the dog known as the Hound of Baskerville, solving one of the biggest mysteries left from the original game of why the Hound of Baskerville was such a big deal, and that car lore, and why the Suzanto, I don't think I said that right, had to go back to Japan. And that because her dad realized they were too close at finding another secret. Strongheart then used fake evidence and autopsies to convict Jensen, and then that led him to be able to blackmail the coroner, Courtney Seiss, who found out from another case, as long as Gregson, the victim, and the judge, which is why the judge had to kill Gregson and Jensen. But we find out that the Reaper is none other than Lord Strongheart himself, who has been the mastermind behind the last 10 years, including the assassin exchange, which kills Dr. Wilson and Tobias Gregson, and then including all of the 14 accidental deaths of the Reaper, all just to stop criminals from acting up in London, when he's been the biggest criminal of them all. Sholmes, who had secretly had the Queen listen to the case the whole time, is able to revoke Strongheart as the Lord Chief to take his immunity away, and then he's able to be a child. This case managed to wrap up everything in the series. So many questions were answered, and everything ties in and relates so well. Like, and I don't really understand how, like, Mr. Sholmes seemed to have figured this all out, like, at the beginning of the other game, but he just kind of let everything happen. But after we beat the game, there's a few more mysteries solved, including who Iris's dad is, as we find out her father is Clint Van Zykes, or Barack's brother, who we know died in the duel, and her mother passed away while giving birth, so that's why Sholmes has been caring for her. And then we find out whether Ryosuke is going to Japan or staying in London. But I'm sure I went over a few, I missed a few things, but hey, that just means you have to play it to figure out what I missed. Because let me tell you, this was the most fun I had playing any of the Great Ace Attorney games. It made everything worth it. But if you liked the video, subscribe. But this is Sauce signing out.